Right now, somewhere in your body, a stranger is breathing through your lungs. Not literally, but almost. Buried inside your DNA is a set of instructions that never came from your parent species. They came from someone else. Someone who vanished 40,000 years ago. Someone science spent over a century trying to forget. You carry their genes. You just never knew it. For most of the 20th century, the story of human evolution was simple. One line, one species. You, standing at the end of a straight arrow that started with apes and ended with modern humans. Neat, linear, comforting. That story was wrong. In 2010, a geneticist named Svante Pajibo did something that should have been impossible. He extracted usable DNA from a 40,000-year-old bone found in a cave in Croatia. The bone belonged to a Neanderthal, and when Pabo's team compared that ancient genome to the DNA of living humans, they found something that broke the simple story completely. Neanderthal DNA was still there, inside you, not as a fossil, not as a relic. As active, functioning code, sitting inside the cells of people alive today, including possibly you, reading this right now. How does a species that went extinct 40,000 years ago still have a say in how your body works? The answer starts with a question you've probably never asked yourself. What actually happened when two different human species met for the first time? You imagine conflict, war, one species wiping out the other. That's the story evolution seems to favor. Survival of the fittest. Winner takes all. But that's not what the DNA shows. The DNA shows something far stranger. It shows intimacy. Somewhere between 50,000 and 60,000 years ago, groups of Homo sapiens migrating out of Africa encountered Neanderthals already living across Europe and Asia. These were not mindless brutes. Neanderthals buried their dead. They made tools. Some evidence even suggests they made art. They were a different flavor of human, shaped by 200,000 years of surviving ice ages your ancestors had never faced. And when these two populations met, they didn't just fight. They mixed. Modern humans and Neanderthals had children together, multiple times, in multiple places, across thousands of years. Feel that for a second. Somewhere in your family tree, an ancestor of yours chose a Neanderthal partner. Not once, possibly many times, across many generations, across many parts of the ancient world. This wasn't a footnote in your species' history. It was a merger. Today, every person with ancestry outside sub-Saharan Africa carries somewhere between 1 and 4% Neanderthal DNA. That might sound small. It isn't. Spread across the entire non-African human population, that adds up to roughly 20% of the entire Neanderthal genome still existing, scattered in fragments, inside living people. The species didn't go extinct. It dissolved into you. But here's where the story gets stranger, because not all of that inherited DNA was harmless. A geneticist named David Reich, working out of Harvard, spent years mapping exactly where Neanderthal DNA shows up in modern genomes. What he found was a pattern. Neanderthal genes weren't scattered randomly. They clustered in specific places. And some of those places control your immune system. Ask yourself something. Why would DNA from an extinct species end up controlling how your body fights disease? Because it worked. When your ancestors left Africa, they walked into an unfamiliar world. New climates, new pathogens, new diseases their immune systems had never encountered. Neanderthals, on the other hand, had lived in that world for 200,000 years. Their immune systems had already fought those battles, already adapted, already won. So when modern humans interbred with Neanderthals, they weren't just gaining a few extra traits. They were inheriting battle-tested defenses, a shortcut through millennia of evolutionary trial and error. Your ability to fight off certain viruses today may trace directly back to a Neanderthal ancestor who survived a plague your species had never even met. That's not folklore. That's published, peer-reviewed genetics. And it goes further than immunity. Researchers studying Neanderthal DNA in modern populations have linked inherited variants to things you'd never expect. Skin tone, hair texture, how easily you tan or burn, whether you're a morning person or a night owl. Even, in some studies, how you respond to pain and how susceptible you are to certain mood disorders. You didn't just inherit eye color and height from your biological parents. You may have inherited a piece of your personality from a species that hasn't existed for 40,000 years. But Neanderthals aren't the only ghost hiding in your genome. In 2008, in a cave in Siberia called Denisova, researchers found a tiny finger bone, just a fragment, barely anything to look at. When scientists sequenced its DNA, they discovered it didn't match modern humans. It didn't match Neanderthals either. It matched nothing in the known human family tree. They had just discovered an entirely new branch of humanity. Scientists named them Denisovans after the cave, and almost nothing is known about what they looked like, because almost no other bones from them have ever been found. Just fragments, teeth, a skull piece, a handful of bones, and yet, their DNA lives on too. A geneticist named Joshua Akey at Princeton has spent years tracing Denisovan DNA through modern populations, especially across Asia and Oceania. In some populations in Papua New Guinea and Tibet, Denisovan DNA makes up 4 to 6% of the modern genome, higher than Neanderthal DNA in most of the rest of the world. And one Denisovan gene in particular tells an almost unbelievable story. People living in Tibet today carry a gene variant that allows them to survive at extreme altitude, where oxygen is thin and most human bodies struggle to cope. For years, scientists couldn't explain where that gene came from. It didn't match anything in the modern human genome's normal evolutionary history. Then they checked the Denisovan genome. It matched perfectly. An extinct species, known from a single finger bone, gave living humans the ability to breathe on top of the world's highest mountains. Stop and sit with that for a second. A species you can't even picture, that left behind almost no physical trace, is the reason some humans today can survive where most human lungs would fail. You are not one story. You are several species, folded into one. And this raises an uncomfortable question. If interbreeding gave your ancestors immunity, altitude adaptation, and other survival advantages, why did Neanderthals and Denisovans still go extinct while modern humans didn't? Scientists still argue about this. Some point to modern humans having larger, more complex social networks, capable of trading resources and information across greater distances. Others point to subtle differences in tool technology, or vocal anatomy, or group size. But increasingly, many researchers think the answer isn't that modern humans replaced these other species. It's that modern humans absorbed them. Small population sizes, constant interbreeding, generation after generation of mixing. Eventually, the distinct genetic lines of Neanderthals and Denisovans became diluted into the much larger population of modern humans, until there weren't enough pure individuals left to call a separate species anymore. They didn't lose the war. They were folded into the winning side, one relationship at a time, until their bloodline simply became part of yours. Which means the line between modern human and ancient other species was never as clean as textbooks made it look. You've probably heard the phrase, human race your whole life, as if it describes one single, uniform thing. But your genome tells a messier story. A story where your ancestors interbred with other species entirely, where your immune system may run on borrowed code, where your ability to sleep, tan, or feel pain might trace back to relationships between people who technically weren't even the same species as each other. Modern genetic testing companies can now detect roughly how much Neanderthal DNA you personally carry. Some people carry almost none. Some carry noticeably more than the average. There's no guarantee, no simple ancestry line you can trace with certainty. But statistically, unless every single one of your ancestors stayed exclusively in sub-Saharan Africa for the last 60,000 years, you are, right now, walking around as a living hybrid. Here's the part that should really unsettle you. Scientists are still finding new pieces of this puzzle. In 2018, researchers identified the bone fragment of a teenage girl in Denisova Cave whose mother was Neanderthal and whose father was Denisovan. Two entirely different ancient human species, having a child together, in the same cave, at the same time modern humans were also expanding across the region. 3 human species, overlapping, interbreeding with each other, all at once. The ancient world wasn't a straight line leading to you. It was a crowded, tangled family reunion, and you are the only branch still standing. So the next time you catch a cold, and your body somehow fights it off faster than expected, or you notice you can handle bitter cold better than a friend, or you simply wonder why humans look and adapt so differently across the planet, remember this. Some of that answer isn't really you, it's someone else, borrowed, blended, and passed down through tens of thousands of years, quietly still running in the background of your body. Right now, somewhere in your body, a stranger is still breathing through your lungs. Except it's not a stranger anymore. It's you. If this changed how you see yourself, subscribe, because the next hidden piece of your history is already waiting. And if you already know how much Neanderthal or Denisovan DNA you carry, drop the percentage in the comments below.